Welcome to the Maintenance Mavericks podcast, where we talk about trends in maintenance, reliability, and asset operations. My name is Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of Upkeep, and I'll be your host for today's discussion. For today's guest, I'm super excited to welcome Joey Cantrell to our podcast. A little bit about Joey. Joey is the general manager of operations at Constellium, which is a manufacturing company specializing in aluminum products. Joey has over 37 years of field experience working in the mechanical industrial sector and is passionate about using technology to improve manufacturing workflows. Welcome to the podcast, Joey. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and I was going to let you know it's an honor to be with you today.
It's an honor back to you, Joey, to be with you and have you come on to our podcast. So again, really appreciate you taking the time today out of your busy schedule.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
The way that we always kick this podcast off is have you share a little bit more about your journey and how you were first introduced to this industry of maintenance, reliability, and operations. What has that journey been like?
Well, my father started me off when I was 13, training me. He was a machinist by trade, worked maintenance for 45 years. So at the age of 13, he started training me to be in the machine tool, machinist, maintenance, and reliability world, teaching me what I needed to know to be successful in what I'm doing now. At that time, I hated it. I literally hated it. But now I'm so thankful that he did what he did, because it got me to the point, with his pushing me and training me, starting me off training, gave me a good foundation base to be at where I'm at now in my career.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you've had such a successful career over the last 37 years here in this industry, and continue to innovate and push the boundaries of what our industry really is. So appreciate all the work that you've done. And again, thank you for sharing all of this knowledge on today's podcast.
Well, thank you, sir.
I would love to jump into today's topic. So obviously, we've heard that over the past couple of years, COVID has been this big catalyst for the supply chain issues, leading to everything from product shortages. And obviously, I know that the aluminum industry has been obviously affected too by, product shortages, working remotely, all the COVID shutdowns over the last 3 years. I want to ask you, how has that shop floor changed over the last 3 years amidst all of this unprecedented change?
In the manufacturing world, what we're seeing now is, social distancing, that's created a big barrier because you can't work in groups no more. So everybody sort of has to branch out, then masking and offset on breaks. But it also is in a supply chain where you was just in time in the supply chain. Now you can't be just in time because the parts may not be out there when you want them. So what we're having to do now is to make sure that our storerooms are full with the required parts, criticality parts, and make sure everything's brought back to standards and remanufacturing. If we had to repair an item, bring it back to OEM standards, which we'd always have, but make sure we're doing more inspecting of the parts coming in, looking for extra equipment, extra supply chains, repair parts to have on hand in case we was to have a manufacturing, anomaly go down. But it's been challenging, very challenging. And also too is keeping your head count up and being able to operate. And this is throughout all of industry, not just aluminum industry, and the steel industry and the power generation industry, is keeping people there on site, because you could have 20 or 30 people at one time off from work because of COVID and because of what we went through in the past in the pandemic. It's hard. You got to restructure your manufacturing outside of that.
Yeah. What I hear, if I were to sum this up, is like the need for redundancies within your plant, it sounds like, has become the new norm given all of this unprecedented change.
Yes, it has. You got to have redundancy, and it's just the change is just throwing. Every time something happens, it throws. Every time supply chain issue, or it's a 22-week delivery on this part, or we got to meet the customer demands. It throws a roadblock up, and you got to be able to move around that roadblock and look at the big picture, and you got to be able to plan ahead instead of just in time. Just in time was working great till the COVID hit, And now it's just you can't do that anymore. You gotta do a long range forecast.
So I mean, I see like a lot of good in this, but I can also see downside. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like all the good in having redundancy is like you have critical parts if there is a breakdown. You have contingency plans if and when something does break in the supply chain that may affect your ability to either transport your product or get product in to produce your manufactured goods. But does all of this translate into higher costs for the end consumer?
The cost is the same. Whatever industry you're in, the cost to be the same, because most of the times in what industry you're in, you already have a contract set up with the end user. So, you got to honor that contract, whether you're in a steel generation, aluminum generation, coal, power, natural gas, tile, rubber, you've got a contract set up beforehand. Yeah. So you've got to honor that contract, and you just try to do your best to absorb the cost and make ends meet.
Yeah, obviously that's difficult on profits of a company and cash flow of a company. Obviously one thing that we also saw too was creating these, moving from just in time to redundancies, oftentimes onshore, so that we don't have to rely on international trade issues that could come up. I kind of want to ask the question, like, how do you think the last 3 years of change has altered the trajectory of manufacturing here in the U.S. specifically?
The trajectory of manufacturing here in the U.S. has increased because we're getting where we cannot rely on overseas products to come in because of the supply chain issues. They're having manufactured issues overseas, and then they're also having shutting down plants, shutting down operations. So what we're doing here in the United States is a lot of people are looking at manufacturing here in the United States and to bring the product back from overseas back to the United States on this soil, so you won't have that logistics of getting a part in here. It's you're looking at a lot of bearing manufacturers. They're tooling up to make some of the bearings that they was having made overseas here made into the United States. Some of your electronics, which was made overseas, now they're getting promoted back in here. They just signed a big bill and authorized to have chips started been making here, I think in Kentucky or Ohio, one of the two regions, because they was getting them overseas. Now we're bringing them back here to the United States. So here, the manufacturing in the United States is on the upswing. It's climbing, but the issue is finding people to man these factories.
Yeah,
that's going to be the biggest value right now, is to finding qualified people, skilled people, especially in maintenance, and also find people who want to work in factories. It's not like it was 20, 30 years ago. Now it's we changed.
What do you think the solution is to that, Joey? Because it's an ongoing conversation. People, retention, hiring.
It's to know your people. Right now, we're at the age I grew up in. I'm what they call a baby boomer, and we followed our father's footsteps. That generation, the greatest generation of all time. And they was just nose to the ground doing what they got to do to get by. But now the new generation they're more into what's in it for me and what can I do. And if they don't like it, they say, peace out, I'm done, I'm gone. So, it's more learning their needs, how they can contribute, how their feelings are felt, and constantly train them. They just don't want to come in and be, they want to constantly feel like they're giving to the company and feel like they're supporting the company and they value to the company. And all companies got to realize that we are the people who want to be valued. If you start valuing people and treating them with respect, treating them with honor, and valuing their opinions, they'll be with you in the long term. But if just least little thing that don't happen, they're like I say, they're going to say, peace, I'm out of here, I'm gone.
Yeah. So treat people with respect, dignity, it seems like all the things that we should be doing.
Well, we should, but we live in a real fast society right now.
Mhm.
And we don't talk as much because now we're TikToking, we're Facebooking, we're texting, and we've lost the power to talk to people. And people right now, it's a whole new learning experience all over again. To have one-on-one conversation. People feel threatened sometimes when you have a one-on-one conversation with them. Now you can text them and they understand it, but it's one-on-one. Oh, I got to go talk to him face to face. Why don't he just text me and let me know what he wants? So it's a change. It's a huge learning curve for the baby boomers and for the younger people.
We've talked about like COVID, we've talked about like all the unprecedented change. And it's pretty clear that, these COVID variants, there's talk about this like looming economic downturn could continue to exacerbate the problems that we've been facing within manufacturing and supply chain. So maybe the question, Joey, is like, how should businesses prepare for the next several years of change expected ahead?
Well, we're seeing businesses prepare by they're going, new smart factories are being developed. They're taking older factories and upgrading them with new technology. And then they're building new greenfield technology, new greenfield factories. And so they're preparing for the future by upgrading their equipment, upgrading their manufacturing processes. And the biggest thing is they're training people on new technology. And that's, for the next 5 years, if you don't start training your people on what's to come, 20 years ago, I never would have thought I'd be carrying a handheld phone in my hand and, computer right there. We still doing everything on paper and notes and all this. And now we got a computer at our hand. It can do all our thinking for us. So we've got to constantly train our people. The factories have got to improve on their technology, get more into the digital world, get more into the remote world, and just keep stepping forward. Like, it's like the old saying goes, put one foot in front of the other. Factories, manufacturing has got to keep putting one foot forward. If they're stuck in their box and not willing to step out, they're going to fail and they're going to leave behind. I always use when I'm talking to groups and talking to people. Do you remember in the movie Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the Bobble Stole Man?
Mm-hmm.
That song that says, "Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking out the door." That's what I tell. That's what I tell my team, and also tell other people. Keep putting that one foot in front of the other, and you'll keep going forward. But if you ever stop, you'll never keep moving.
Yeah.
So in manufacturing, you got to do the same thing. Look out for new technology. Look out for new ideas. Look out to what's latest and greatest on the market, and see how you can incorporate that in your processes.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, we talked about like technology. You mentioned, this idea that 20 years ago never could have imagined that you'd be walking around with a supercomputer in your pocket. I believe that some of the greatest innovations are actually developed as a response to challenging times. Challenging times, lots of change comes oftentimes with the biggest innovation. So kind of want to ask you, like, what new innovations are you excited by? What types of new practices or technology that do you think we'll start to see as a result of, this challenging time, changing time?
One of the things we're seeing is what me and you're on right now, a Zoom call. That's new technology. Then you got Teams meetings. So that's come out of all this. But also too, in the maintenance world, what you're seeing now is you're seeing digital technology that's coming out with, remote sensors that you don't even have somebody come check them. They can just log in from home and see vibration analysis. They can put thermographic cameras in there and look at their electrical panels and see that. Never have to open the doors, just look at them. But you also too, you got remote maintenance where you can log in, say, I got an issue with a machine. I need to call the OEM. He can log into the system, actually read the system, or show me the prints, or I can send him a digital photograph or FaceTime him, or, Teams meeting with him, and we can work side by side. He's actually looking at the problem with me, seeing the actions. 20 years ago, we couldn't see that. We was picking up the rotary phone saying, "Help, I need help. Here's what my issue is." And he's trying to picture it in his mind or look at it on the prints. And you couldn't do that 20 years ago. You really couldn't do it 10 years ago. But because of COVID, now we got digital technology, we got remote access, we got remote cameras, We got vibration sensors that nobody has to be there to watch all the time and watch the little red, needle going around, temperature sensors, lubrication sensors. It's just a whole new world that's come out of this COVID. It was being developed before COVID, but when COVID hit,
accelerated.
Oh, it just took off like a race car. It just flew. Yeah. And it's really, 20 years ago, we was filling everything out on paper. Nowadays, you got your phone system, same thing like through your system. You can access everything through your upkeep. You can access everything through, or your handheld. I still say Palm Pilot, but through your phone, you can access the paperwork and everything and check off of it, and it's there.
That's right.
But 20 years ago, you couldn't.
I mean, it is kind of wild to think 20 years ago, the first iPhone didn't even exist, right? It's times have changed just so much so quickly.
It does. I mean, I can remember using a slide rule. That's how I tell you how old I am for a calculator. I learned how to do calculations with a slide rule. And now you can do all those calculations right there on your phone and you never had to think, really.
So we've talked a lot about systems, technology, tools. We also know that none of those would be able to be maintained without the people behind them. And oftentimes that's kind of like, our role as maintainers in the world. So I kind of want to ask you, Joey, what advice do you have for fellow leaders in maintenance, reliability, operations, leading teams through change and a lot of change that we expect in the future?
My biggest thing is to train your people. Consistently train. I can't overemphasize that enough. Second thing is to be respectful of your team. Also, it's real easy as leaders to want to lead behind a desk.
Yeah.
But you've got to be out there on the floor. People want that we as human beings want that one-on-one touch, that one-on-one confrontation, not confrontation, but one-on-one meeting with each other. They want to feel like they matter. So as leaders, we've got to emphasize that to them, that you count. I'm going to get you the training. I'm going to train with you. I'm going to learn with you. And also as leaders, we got to remember, your team's only going to be as good as you are, but you're only going to be as good as your team. So it's a double-edged sword. It cuts both ways. So in team, there's no I, it's a group. We're individual. And so as leaders, we can't forget that. You cannot forget where you came from, and you can't forget where you're going. But you also got to bring your team there with you too. It's a success for both parties.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights there, Joey. And the way that we always end our podcast is with a quick fire round of questions to leave our audience with a few extra golden nuggets of information. So essentially, I'll ask you a question and get your thoughts in 20 seconds or less. Are you ready to jump in?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So to start, what's the biggest challenge you're facing in your role right now, and how are you tackling it?
It's finding qualified people to do the job. And what way we're finding that is we have partnered up with our local community college and went into it. Used to be you had apprenticeship programs. You had pipe fitter apprenticeship programs, millwright apprenticeship programs. All your factories had apprenticeship programs set up to train the people work up. Nowadays, because of the technical schools, the junior colleges becoming one, we're partnering with the junior colleges on their program, where the students, they decided just like to get in a football scholarship. They go in there and sign the program up, put the company hat on, sign the papers. They're committing to go to school for 2 to 4 years. But also while they're going to school, they're also getting hands-on training from experienced journeymen, electrical and mechanical both. So they're getting the best of both worlds. So when they graduate from the college, they'll get an associate's degree, or they'll get a 4-year degree that the company's paying for.
Yeah.
And then they'll also get paid while they're working to learn the trade. So by the time you hire him when you're 18, you say 4 years, 18, 23 years old, you're making, over $30 an hour or more.
Yeah.
And with great benefits.
Right. And with, an education, a degree, like sounds like such a good setup.
It is, and you're building a foundation. You're laying. It's like building a house. You're laying your foundation for you to be successful in your career further down the line.
Yeah. All right. What's one question you wish I would have asked, and how would you have answered?
The question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Okay.
And where I see myself in 5 years is being a better leader, a better person, and a better teacher to my team, to my family, and to people I come in contact with. Right. I want people. I can't take, when I die, I want to be an impact on. I hope I'm an impact on the people that I come in touch with. I don't want to take what I know to the grave. So I want to be able to teach what I know as far as my skill, my experience, and my, not say beliefs, but my honor.
Yeah.
I stand in my name. My name means a lot to me, and I want to pass that along, and I want to pass along what I know to other people.
Yeah.
So that's where I see myself in 5 years.
All right. How about some contrarian views? What's one thing about your job field that you believe others may disagree with you on?
That don't ever forget where you came from. Some people may say, oh, I'll never go back. Don't ever be willing to not go back to what you started out from. A lot of people, they I'll never go back to that, or I won't do this, but you can't ever forget where you came from. And you can't ever forget the people who helped you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do. They forget where they came from, and they forget the people that helped them. And they think it's all I've done this, I've done that. No, the people that taught you, the people that mentored you, the people that have provided you guidance through your career, they've helped you, and you got to be thankful for that.
Yeah. All right. Biggest takeaway that you hope all of our listeners can learn from today's discussion?
I hope that they take away on how to be a good leader, on what it takes to be a good leader. And also, too, is that the digital world, that you've constantly got to learn. You constantly got to seek out new information, new technology, because if you don't seek out that, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah. All right. I love all the answers here. Lastly, Joey, can you share with all of our listeners all the different ways that they can connect with you and follow you on your journey?
I'm on LinkedIn at Joey Cantrell on LinkedIn, and also you can reach me at Joey Cantrell 100, JoeyCantrell 100 at yahoo.com. I answer all my emails, and that's one thing I learned a long time ago. To be polite and be respectful of people, and I'm here to help people on their journey and also help businesses be successful.
Thank you so much, Joey, for joining us. And thank you for being so kind to our audience, responding to every single email and, just wanting to share your experiences and support. So thank you again. Thank you to all of our listeners for tuning into today's episode of the Maintenance Mavericks podcast. Again, my name is Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of Upkeep. You can connect with me. I'm also very active on LinkedIn, or you can shoot me an email directly at ryan@upkeep.com. I hope everyone enjoyed today's discussion, and I look forward to the next one. Until next time, thank you again, Joey. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.